Hey folks, welcome to Quantum Information. Today we're going to talk about Svelte and Sapper. This is the framework that I've probably been the most excited about ever since becoming a web developer. I really like Svelte because it is just that fast and conceptually easy to understand with enough magic happening that it makes things quicker to develop. So Sapper is short for Svelte Application Packager or something like that, and it runs the sort of back-end, server rendering side of things, and provides the Svelte front end. So the fastest way to get up to speed with it is to go to this website and follow the steps here, and it just tells you how to create a Svelte app, and goes through the app structure. And so I'm going to show you this thing running in real time here. So once you generate a project, it looks something like this, and I've created a Svelte bootcamp which I'll link to for this version on my GitHub, which is basically a Git clone of what the create app does. So the directories look a bit like this here. So you have your files rollup config. It doesn't use Webpack, but there's an option to use Webpack, but the guy who wrote Svelte, he also wrote rollup, so I just trust his interpretation of how the build should look. I don't really know much about rollup, so I'm just going to skip all this. There's some dependencies, of course. So we have Babel here. I'm not using TypeScript right now. The rollup dependencies, and then different ways to build and run the project. So typically when I'm developing, I'll use dev mode, and that just gives you the nice source maps and auto rerolling of the page. Build will actually gives you something that you can deploy, I think. Export is a static site so that you can deploy it on static hosting. And then there's some tests and stuff, but I haven't used that yet. So also there's the Cypress setup here, and I think it's some kind of continuous integration stuff that they use. So in terms of resources, there's a static stuff that you can use and load on the site, and then let's just go into the source here. So there's a template file here which is reloaded for all the pages, and then the Svelte gets injected into various hooks here. So there's you can read about that in documentation. So to run the application, you just go into your terminal and you do npm run dev, and it will fire up Sapper and Svelte app. Grab some coffee. This is just something that I logged here to make sure I understood what was going on. So the app that runs looks like this here. Got a nice little picture of Borat saying great success. It's got an about page, a blog, and various 2 seconds, I need to fix my code. I've been playing around with it quite a little bit, trying to figure out how everything works. So I'll just leave that there. There's some really neat and nice features like preloading that goes on. I was just wanting to log the parameters here because we're doing object deconstruction, and because I'm not using TypeScript, then it's kind of not obvious what the schema is. So I've just made a couple of changes there, and you can see that it now works. Well, it will work once the server's reloaded. Okay, so I've got blog posts. So there is quite a lot to explain here, but let me just think how I'm going to explain this. So let's just go into the server here. This is what it uses to sort of bootstrap everything. It uses these libraries. So SIRV is static serving, but it's a bit faster than the Express inbuilt version. It does some fancy things on the back end to like not checking to see if all the files exist or something like that. And Polka is like a really fast Express type like node server. And then you have to use Sapper middleware at the end here, and then you specify the port that you listen to, which you can change with Node as an environment variable. And then to go into the client here. So the client is all it is specifying the the element that we're going to hook into Svelte. So if we go to the template here, there's a div with the ID sapper, and that is where the application will be injected into in terms of all the DOM elements. And then we've got the scripts that inject here, the head here, the styles, and this base, I'm not sure what that is, but the documents will explain what that is. So back to the client here, that's all it is. So let's go into, there's also Serviceworker, which I don't claim to fully understand yet, but it's to do with caching and like offline support. So if we go to the index Svelte, which is this page here, and we'll just open up the DevTools. Okay, there is Svelte DevTools that are being developed, but they're not published on Chrome yet. Time for some more coffee. So let's just go to network here and just clear this out and refresh the page here. So you can see here there's some JavaScript loaded here dynamically, which is what's created from. This is the compiler, Svelte compiler. So what it does is it outputs minimal code, almost quite like vanilla.js. For example, this element is just a document.create element function, and it will actually outputs the functions that it needs for just the minimum it needs for the application to run, instead of applications like React, Ember, etc., where you get the whole framework. So yeah, so let's just go to the index. The index page here has a Borat, a figure, and then just some text, which we see here. And the styles these are actually scoped to the component. So what it does is that it will take anything here and it'll append like class names to the elements, so that it's scoped uniquely. So let me just show that to you. So you can see here it generates these class names which won't clash, and that's where the styles. So you don't have to. The nice thing about this kind of styling is that you often don't need to nest things so much. You don't really need SAS that much, because you can get away with a lot of. You don't have to nest, because you know here the styles are going to be scoped. There is a global CSS file, which is here, where you can obviously change things that apply globally to everything on the page. So let's just go to the about page here, talk about this. So it's just another static page here. This is changing the title of the page on each page here. The layout file is what is sort of used for the whole page that's injected. So the nav here, you have the nav, and then you have this main slot thing. So the main is the body here, and that's what changes once you navigate pages. And you've got the nav here, which is constant for all the pages on this layout. And if we go into the nav, and you can see here it navigates control click on one WebStorm, which is nice for such a young framework to have support like this is excellent. Probably my number one favorite feature of Svelte is that you can export let, and you can modify variables, and you don't have to use things like React.setState or any framework specific ways to modify things. You can, if you want to get to speed to this, then you can go onto the Svelte website, and there's lots and lots of examples explaining how this stuff. This is beyond the scope of this video. I'm just giving a very brief overview of Svelte and Sapper. So yeah, this is the nav, and you've got some scope styles here, and then we have some code here. So this is Svelte specific templating, just to check to see what to use as the underline here. So let's go over how this blog post works and how it renders these items here. The data for these posts actually resides just inside of a local folder here. So if we look at posts, this is all the data that's going to be rendered, including the titles. This is the body for each one of the posts, and the title gets rendered as a title. So how this works, if we go into the blog index page here, we can see that there's some templating going on. Each post as post, and then it has a link to a URL which then renders the page. And this slug is like a dynamic parameter that's passed into the URL, which is then used to generate the page. So if you look at the blog.index, you can see here there's something called preload. It loads the JSON and then exports a variable called posts, which is then available later on in the page. This reminds me of my time in Ember, where you had like a route and then you have like a model, but it's a lot of framework specific code and you need an extra file. Here it just has a little bit of magic that gets the data before the root renders. And the nice thing is, which is really for me is quite revolutionary, is that this preload function will be called as soon as the person who's on like another page hovers over the blog post. Yeah, it gets the data when you mouse over the blog link. It took me a while to figure out what was going on, because I was putting the breakpoints inside of here and it wasn't getting hit, and I'm like, what is going on? Let me just show you this and prove it to you. So we go to the network tab, and I'm just going to clear everything out here and refresh the page, so we've got like a clean state to go from. So what I'm going to do is going to go to the, oopsie, too early. On the nav template, which is here, up here, we can see here that the blog link, and the nice thing also is that you can use anchor tags to render links to other routes. It's not like React and Ember where you have to like put specific things like link or routing. You can use really as much vanilla JS as possible. So there's this thing called rel prefetch. So it says for a blog link we're using the same rel prefetch that Sapper prefetches the blog data when we're hovering over the link or tap on the touch screen. So what happens is once we mouse over the blog link, and I'll just show you here, inspecting this. So look, rel prefetch, right? And it's done it. It's done it already. So the first time, I'll just refresh the page. So if we load the index page, right? So go into source, go into routes, and then where is it? Components. Where's the index page? Let me just do a search for this. I'm still getting up to speed with this. Be patient, guys, be patient. So we need Svelte index. Is it there? I'm not sure. How did I get into that page? Ah, here we are. Here it is. There's the dev tools and source maps, and it's still kind of work in progress. Okay, so let's talk about how this works. So we want to open up the index.svelte file. I'm going to put a breakpoint on this file. So the breakpoints, I think, let me just check the files. So we need this file here. I don't know why there's two files rendered here, but anyway, we're going to just test to see that this breakpoint gets hit on the index on the blog. As I said before, when I thought this would be hit as soon as we refresh on the blog page, but actually this code is called when we mouse over the blog post. So if we go over here, we're on the about page, mouse over here. Okay, so it's already happened on this page once. So I'm just going to refresh the page. We've got our breakpoint set up, and I'm going to hover over blog, right? And you can see here we've stepped into a Svelte file and debugging. So we're still on about, as you can see. I'm repeating this again and again so you get it. So we've got the routes, we've got the prefetched nav for the blog post, and then the blog index, then we've got the blog JSON. And the same also happens for each post. When you hover over the blog post title, it then reloads the content for the other blog post. So as you can see here, we're doing a fetch, and we've got the params coming in. There's no params here because we're just we don't need to use them. We're just doing a fetch, and then we're going to render the post variable, which is then available down here. Now I did try actually putting a breakpoint here to see if it would stop. Now you can set it in WebStorm, but it doesn't actually pause, which I would be very surprised if it does. Not because like JSX, everything's like React, JavaScript, and you can sort of step through it. Here, I just can't see how this Svelte, which is a templating file, would be able to step through. But I tried. So we just press, we just continue here. We can see here we have the posts, which are, this is JSON, get data back. I have an array here, which is what is being rendered from the data file here. Now the good thing is if you put an underline on a file name, then Sapper won't do anything special with it, like try and serve it as a page. There are some nice sort of conventions that you use in the framework, and this just means that you can reduce the amount of code that you have to write. So as we see, I press F8 here, and now we're on. Well, actually, the page hasn't been rendered yet. It has the data. And then we click to blog. It knows. Oh, wait a minute. It has paused here. Right. So, but I can't expect the variables, or can I? No. That would be really amazing if you could do that. That is quite surprising. That is really cool. That is special. So F8, now we render each page. Now, each one of these also has the rel prefetch. So if we go to the network here, I'm just going to clear this out, and I'm going to go back into here, and I'm going to go to the index Svelte in the blog, and you can see here we're looking through the post, and we're doing a rel prefetch the content for each one of these blog posts. Now, let me just show you. So we'll go to here, clear this out, and then we'll look at the network tab. And if you mouse over things, we can see here it's loading the content for each of these blog posts, so that will render immediately once we go there. So if we just clear this out, I'm going to navigate to this one. And you can see here the URL. We have what is Sapper. So let's just go into the files and see what is going on. How is this being translated to this? So let's go to sources, and here, and then routes, then blog. We already looked at the index Svelte. I think I need the blue one, not the yellow one. So we've got this thing called slug. Okay, so this slug.svelte file, the brackets is, think of these as a variable names, and inside here is a slug, and then you can access this slug property as part of the params. So I've put a breakpoint in this slug file here, and what it does is that it takes this parameter and then it goes to the back end and gets some server data. I will go in more into the back end later on. I'll show you next video on how to debug them. So this gets called on a prefetch route. So I'll show you that happening. So if I go to about here, and then we go to blog, once I hover one of these links, then we're going to get this preload called, and then we're going to render the file as a slug Svelte. So let's just show you that. So I'll go here, right? So it comes in, and we've got these params, and we've got the slug, and how I can get involved, and then the back end that's mapped to a JSON object. Okay. So, and then it's going to come into the Svelte file, which is this one. When we actually navigate to click on the link, it's going to just render the value of the post that we export as this data object here. So we just click on the link now, and we can see that it's rendered the content. So that's enough for now. I'm glad you could watch this video. If you have any questions, please ask. And in the next video, we'll talk about how you can debug on the server side using WebStorm. The same techniques will be used for Visual Studio Code, or you can even debug in Chrome in the back end, but we'll cover debugging next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.